Brought to you by NORDIC VOTCast.
All right. Welcome, Nima Shahinian. I nailed that, and I know I did, right?
Yeah, you did. But Shahinian isn't the worst name.
It's not,
No.
but it's a Persian name.
It's we really don't know, to be honest. It's Persian. Some say it's kind of I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't sound so Persian, to be honest.
Shahinian. No.
Shahinian.
But I'm really glad you could make it on the VOTCast show. You are a special breed of a person. Now, let me explain. The reason why I say that is you're very unorthodox in the way you have crossed through different paths of life. We have a guy who has, first of all, you're tatted up. You've gone into the military. You've served Marines.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then when you come out, you've entered design. And it's product design, industrial design. And you have really reshaped that world as well. So as talented with a pencil as you have been with a rifle.
Thank you.
No, I'm just explaining.
Yeah. It's kind of two different worlds, but they kind of interconnect anyways. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, it's
Very
good. But
kind word.
how do you see that it interconnects? Because
I think service in the military, of course, there are a lot of ethical issues and dilemmas. Still have them in design.
mhm.
Who are you working for? What are you really doing? What kind of products do you make? What kind of products do you want to make? Finding that balance between ethics but also good business, because as designers we won't be able to make money and survive if we don't do some projects. But we have to find that balance so
Right.
that we can live with it also. So
So there's a lot of ethical dilemmas in design. Is that what I'm
Extremely.
hearing?
Yeah. I think we're meeting these ethical dilemmas every day. Every project we do. First of all, let's say, for instance, we design products. We design
Right.
product. Do we need more products? Do we need more plastics? Do we need more manufacturing of steel and kind of using the Earth's gift to us in those ways we do. And some people would say, okay, you don't need a diaper with a Twitter account connected to it or some some kind of bullshit product, but many of the products we create, some other people will think is not needed, and it's not needed because a lot of the things that we are having in our lives, physical things and services and all kind of products,
Right.
there's a lot of them we don't need, probably none of them, because
No,
we
that-
have been a primitive race at one
That's
point,
very
and
true.
yeah.
That's very true. And actually, now that you mention it, I guess every product in existence had to be designed first.
Yeah, every product in existence, that being a little stone tool 15,000 years ago, or something more advanced now. It's somebody designed it in some way. Yeah.
So first time I heard about you was the flow design. You designed like what do you call it?
Electrical socket.
Right.
Yeah.
It was an electrical socket that made it easier to connect.
Yeah. It was easier to connect. Super simple problem to solve.
Right.
Super simple solution to that. But a good, thorough and quick design process of getting there. So.
But
Yeah.
why did that? I don't know if you guys can show a picture of the flow, but
Yeah.
this is something no one pays attention to. Electric sockets in the house, and no one looks at an electric socket and thinks, I could improve that.
Yeah.
It's one of the most boring items in a house.
Yeah.
So why did that catch your attention as something that, okay, we need to improve the flow and we need to make the electric socket better? Like, who was your demographic for this?
Okay, let me explain this, because this is super interesting. I think this is super interesting to all people going around saying, okay, I want to be the next inventor of Post-its or some kind of
Right.
genius idea and get rich.
Right.
I think a lot of the problem doing that is people are focusing on finding that great idea instead of searching for the great and important problems that we have, right? So everything around us is a problem. Everything is a problem. This cup that I'm holding in my hand now is a problem. If I start analyzing this, there's a lot of things that I could improve on this, right?
What? Like top of your head?
On top of my head, I had this meeting with PricewaterhouseCoopers a couple of weeks ago. They had exactly these cups. What happens with this is...
Sorry, for those listening, it's a coffee mug.
It's a coffee mug, yeah. Which... I won't say the brand name, but it's narrow in the bottom and wider at the top. So you get this bad balance in it.
So it's perfectly made to fall, to spill.
It's perfectly made to fall. You just need to kind of no power touching it. So the point is everything can be improved. Everything can be better. And what happened with Flow, the electrical socket, is that I was actually, second year student at, design school. And we had this project called Menneske og Funksjon, Human and Function, which is all about universal design. Universal design is kind of, for me, it's way up there in design theory and the kind of things I want to work with. But
what is the definition of universal design?
The definition of universal design is, let's say you have, you design a wheelchair. That's kind of a helping tool. The wheelchair is a tool for someone. It's the demographics are super narrow. You design for one certain type of person or a group of people with some kind of illnesses.
Right, very specific.
We're very, very specific. But universal design is something that you and I, which are super lucky to be healthy, would buy and use, and it would improve our lives.
Right.
But also the same product could not only improve but make things possible for people with
any sort of disability.
Any sort of disability, lack of fine motoric skills. It could be anything. Blind people, whatever. So universal design is designing products for all. So the theory behind that is, if you design for the extreme outer points in society, both the multi-handicapped person in the one end,
right,
and the superhuman, well-trained like you, super smart, super good body, everything is just perfect. In the other end, if you design a product that hits both those demographics, you kind of cover everything in between. That's universal design.
Amazing.
So what I did with Flow, the electrical outlet, was I just chose a product instead of looking for a product that I thought was cool to work with. I kind of love the process, not the end product. I don't care what I'm working on as long as I can do the process the way I think the process should be done. So what I did was, a product that everybody uses every day, almost around the world, if you have electricity, right?
Of course. If you have a phone, you definitely use it every day.
Of course, and everybody has a phone, even in low-wage countries and developing countries and stuff. So point being is, doing the analyze of that, I found out that one of many problems was that it was kind of hard to hit. For me and you, probably, just a minor irritation, so little that we don't kind of think about it when it's under a sofa or it's dark and stuff.
True.
But the question was, okay, what happens if a blind person would try to, plug in, connect something, or somebody with kind of different, handicap or whatever.
Right. Parkinson's, any tremors, any sort of...
Yeah. So that was, that one problem I wanted to solve with the electrical socket, but I didn't want to remove the good things about it. For instance, the price point, I didn't want to make it super technical and moving. So I wanted to be produced and manufactured with the kind of infrastructure that we have now. And based on that, I came up with Flow.
Right.
So, it took off.
It's amazing. It's a solid piece. We couldn't find it.
I think you have to search Flow Stikkontakt.
In Norwegian.
In Norwegian.
Let's try, because it's a really simple design.
Yeah.
And it is one piece.
It's one piece,
as you say.
Yeah.
It's there it is.
It's molded, and
the second picture is good.
Yeah. The thing is, if you want to improve it even more, you could improve it a lot more. For instance, by changing the plastic and how it's manufactured, and there's a 1,000 things you can improve on this. But my focus was the shape and how it works. And yeah.
So for the people listening and not seeing, if you guys Google the Flow Stikkontakt in Norwegian, though, I can describe it. It's like a deep 3D printed yin and yang type of symbol where the holes are the deepest point.
Yeah.
So like a whirlpool, wherever and however you put in the electrical socket, it's just going to slide right in.
Exactly. And it is super simple. The process of coming up with that shape was going through maybe 50 different shapes. It started totally differently.
Wow.
So the idea was, because it was never an idea, it was a process based on a problem, right? So I had a lot of solutions, but when I came up with this solution, in the end, that worked better. I prototyped it. It's actually not 3D printed, it's handmade. So I was kind of in the workshop, sanding out the shapes and
That's
testing.
Old school, man.
That's super
That's
old school. Yeah, I like the old school way of working. But solving one problem just creates 50 new problems. So here I had this child security system because it builds a little more than the electrical socket today does.
Right.
And I had to reinvent kind of, there's
a lot that came with it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. Solving a problem does come with.
Yeah, there you see actually the prototype. If you see the block in front of me, that was the first prototype. And the idea was to have it, you just pull the electrical plug downwards and kind of hit it. But that was so ugly that I wanted to go away from that, I thought.
No, what you ended up with a fantastic product and simplistic design, minimalistic.
Yeah.
But it seems like you said something I want to go back to. You said you go for problem solving first.
Yeah.
That's why you kind of wanted to choose a random object. Now, the skill of problem solving is a highly sought out skill. I mean, problem solving is the foundation of all the 2-3% top jobs globally. Can you solve a problem? And that is what it comes with a term called intelligent flexibility, meaning it's not in your job description, but guess what? There's a problem right there, and can you solve it? So within design, I know there are as many categories as there are products, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But within design, where do you see yourself leaning towards when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to the challenge of that? What is most demanding in that field?
I think one of the most demanding things is actually not the problem solving in itself.
Okay.
Because, end product is always just an answer to a lot of great questions. So you have to ask the right questions to be able to solve that problem and end up with a really good product. And you have to stop focusing on the end product and just focusing on the process. But I think identifying problems is the most challenging. And in reality, me and you sitting here, someone would probably say that we are connected to, let's say, 1,000 products just by sitting here.
Right.
The reality of it is kind of different. We are connected to billions of products just by sitting here and talking to each other right now. Right. Because, our shirts are probably made out of 2 different kind of products. You have some buttons, so you have probably 3 products only in your shirt. Our headsets are probably, to be able to hear each other and record this podcast. All of these systems are connected by, millions of products and components, and just sitting in this room, which is sound isolated, the light so I can see you so clear, the electricity and energy is probably from energy created somewhere in the Western Norway and transported here. So we are connected to so many products just by existing. Every little piece of this, every little component could be just a little bit better. Everything could be a little bit better.
So where do you choose where to focus your strength on? Where to focus your impact on? How do you prioritize what needs improving? Because obviously, I would say, judging by the fact that you even went to service, you do believe in a better world for mankind. That is the definition of service, and that's the definition of, at least I would like to think, why people go into the military is to do believe in a better future.
Yeah.
But where do you focus this responsibility on? Not cops. Maybe cops.
Maybe cops. Yeah. I don't know. It's a super hard question, and it's a super relevant question. I think I think everybody has, everybody want to make an impact. Everybody want to go to the grave being remembered for something they did for mankind.
Right.
In some way, Someone would say, I don't care, but that's not true. I don't think anyone wants to be forgotten. I think everybody want to make a mark.
I think it's a deep human, I don't use the word need, but it is a deep human
desire,
I guess, to leave an impact. I mean, the whole point why we write is so when we're not there, our words are. That's why we write, and everybody writes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't believe that either.
No, and I think, just in our nature, in our exploring nature, we have this need, because many would say that mankind is a race, explorative race, right? That's why we travel around and choose to kind of settle down in countries like Norway, which I'm super glad that somebody did some couple of thousand years ago.
Right.
But the point is, by traveling and exploring, we are looking for that better for tomorrow, right? Exactly. So I think it's in our instinct, it's in our biology to make tomorrow better than today. I think it's supernatural and kind of what creates us. And in that, of course, you wanna make your mark before you go. Exactly. We live this fraction of the time when it comes to the greater universe, and we live, we are in Norway, we call it døgnflue.
Right.
We're here suddenly, and then we're gone.
It's a very short span of time.
Extremely short span of time, and in that time we want to do kind of our biological, instinctively, coded job, and that's to make an impact, to make tomorrow better. So I think my focus is not having too much focus on that, just being as good as I can in my line of work. Perfect. And of course every day take my responsibility and ask the ethical questions and do the small things, and distribute that thought to those few in my in my field that doesn't think like that. I think most designers kind of think like that these days, so I'm super glad for that. There are a lot of good designers out there.
They are
yeah. I work as a strategic design lead in Design It. It's a global design company, and one of our main focuses is design what matters. Design what matters means so much to us, not always in a good sense, but also in a controversial sense, because we discuss it a lot. What does it mean to design something that matters? What really matters? But I think, and many have been discussing in our super ethical, warm-hearted company, containing of, to be honest, some of the brightest people I know in the industry. And we always discuss this, and we never kind of get to a point where we say this is right or wrong. But for us, design what matters is not only to be able to say what actually matters and stamp that. It's just as much having something to discuss, some basis for discussion, which it has become.
No, I truly believe in the fact that one has to, as you said, having that basis of discussion.
Yeah.
You bring two knowns, a third unknown is going to pop up.
Absolutely.
That is the foundation of any sort of movement or innovation forward.
Yeah.
And any company that actually works this way. Henry Ford's company, he had this same kind of pattern.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even know what they were doing, but they'll say, we need a meeting to talk about what?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know, but I'm sure something will pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's the discussion we have to have. The Henry Ford is one of the great minds and actually really changed the world, but you have a lot of those in history. And I think, asking the right questions, discussing the right things, and always being critical to stuff, not only stuff that others do, but also what we self do. It's super important. And we have that basis in Design What Matters, the basis for discussion and the basis for asking the real ethical questions. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, sometimes, most times we are confused, which I think is a healthy sign.
Confusion or
the confusion and the
exploration, maybe.
I would actually call it more exploration, which doesn't need to end up in a conclusion, but just knowing that we have this basis and knowing that we have this good people working with us, our colleagues, and the kind of family that we are, that we always can go back and discuss that kind of issues. We have this example. It's before my time in Design It, but I've been told about this case. we got a question if you wanted to design a bulletproof vest for military use. And I think, as I heard, maybe the story isn't correct because I wasn't there. I'm the third party storyteller right now. But what was discussed was, okay, making bulletproof vests, is it ethical or not? Yeah, probably yes, because you would save lives. We need a military. We know that we need a military, again, in our nature, going to war with those we don't agree with. And we are saving, young people's lives, men and women in the field.
Right.
But there was a little hatch to this, because they also wanted to make soldiers more agile. By making soldiers more agile, they kind of make them more deadly, right?
Right.
So there you have a lot of ethical dilemmas. But let's say that you were asked to make the same bulletproof vest, both saving the lives of men and women, but also making people more agile, but not for the military, for the police force. That kind of changes the whole discussion. That kind of changes the whole ethical question, because you want to have, the agile, safe, civil servants doing the great job for us. So these kind of discussions are super important. And my boss, Niklas Mortensen, he uses actually me as an example on the ethical case of the bulletproof vest, because I was actually saved by one twice, which I was hit by a bullet in my chest.
Where was this?
In Afghanistan, 2004 or 5 or something, many years ago. I was hit by a 76 millimeter smoke grenade, which goes super fast and super hard, just straight in the chest from 2 meters distance.
That's enough to stop the heart.
It is. And I had the steel plate, which is a 1.5 centimeter thick steel plate, which just broke in two. And I was blue and yellow, and broke some ribs, and was hit kind of really hard. But I survived.
What's going through your head at that moment?
Actually, not so much. We were so pumped with adrenaline.
Right.
So this happened. I went on a 10-hour patrol after that.
Okay.
And then I get back to the camp. I take off my vest, and that's the first time I see that it's broken. And I look at my chest, and everything is just... I can see my ribs are broken, but I didn't feel any pain, anything, because...
Adrenaline,
but adrenaline that kept me going for 10 more hours, and it was a good 10 hours until I get back to the camp. So
that is an insane... I think you have the most insane stories for a designer.
Not many designers have experienced that. But
so how long were you in Afghanistan?
Oh, I don't have track on that, but
right.
but many tours.
Right.
Yeah. Probably more than most.
Right.
Yeah.
And what made you enter the field?
I started out as every young boy in that kind of service does. Most probably, just wanting an adventure, adrenaline, want to kind of test out going to war, that kind of romanticizing of war. But in the end, from the first time till the last time I was there, I kind of grew and understood the culture and the reason for us having a military, and just totally changed perspective on that. And what happened is that in the end, I just totally distanced myself from that kind of thought, and I can feel the change through my process.
Did something happen that you made your thought process distant from when you started, or was this the whole experience that made you feel okay, I've kind of had enough?
Yeah, but both. I think most of it was actually a lot of things happened and then didn't happen.
Right.
So what we saw was we were facing action all the time, and there was this suicide bombs going on in Kabul. I remember this one time when we were picking up body parts of small kids. It was a flower street, where Americans had this private security company called Dynacorps. This was in 2004. This is one of the examples, and they had this suicide bomber that went off. They found the engine block in the garden of Norwegian embassy.
Wow.
Miles away. It was big blast, and we were one of the first troops that came to the site, and there was a lot of children newspaper sellers, and we had to kind of pick up the body parts. We didn't have the resources to identify, but we just had to give something to the family so they could bury. And for me, it was, I think some of those experiences was just, is this really necessary? And what is the end result of this? Because we're not seeing this becoming better. So I kind of changed my thought, my mindset from, okay, we need military force, to we need education. We need to educate this country, because everything is done better through knowledge and education. So I kind of developed into that more diplomatic mindset, naturally, by both experiencing things, feeling the action straight on, but also not seeing the change in perspective to that.
No, you have a point. True change, actually, what people call quote unquote evil, is lack of knowledge, is ignorance.
It is.
Pick anything. Racism is lack of knowledge to whatever race you are against, because most of them, they haven't lived in whatever race they are racist towards. They haven't lived in such an environment or a family, and most of the time when you feel that gap, you shine some light into that darkness, that void that is there, either racism or sexism or whatever. It's lack of knowledge, as you're saying right now.
It is so much lack of knowledge, and for me, it's, to be honest, it's disturbing that we have to have, movements like Black Lives Matter. We need to have the Women's Day. We need to have Pride. And, I have some friends that I've been talking with, and I hate the fact that we have to have Pride. I love Pride because it's colorful and vibrant and beautiful, and there's so much great about it. But the fact that we need to have it to mark the rights of a group of people, which isn't a group of people, but just a part of society, and the fact that in a modern country like the United States, but not only the United States, but globally, we need to have a Black Lives Matter movement in 2020. Are you kidding me? We're not further than that. And it scares me when I talk to, my daughters, Isabel, 14, and Michaela, 10. And I talk to them about, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be a fighter pilot, or do you want to be a surgeon? And they're like, nah, fighter pilots, it's a man's job. And it's like, why is it a man's job? Why is being a pilot? And, they are segregated at birth, and it really, irritates me.
I see your point. There are certain things that are basic human values, you know, like security, food, identifying and relating to a human based on their actions and deeds, not based on their looks. These things, as you said, if we talk about universal design for products, these would be universal. Let's say these are universal rights. That's kind of what they're called. Now, we have come really far in certain things. But just like you're saying, the fact that it is actually a discussion, the fact that it is actually being, quote unquote, politicized. How are human rights a political party? It's not. So why is it politicized? And which comes back almost to the vest conversation, because how you see certain police forces in certain countries, how they are, obviously they need to protect and serve, but we're seeing abuse of power to the extent that obviously you have to bring out all these Black Lives Matter or all these. So certain things have gone way too far. And then the question is, how do we bring these things back? How do we... Now, back might be a wrong word, because if this is happening now, we have never been there. So how do we get to where we need to get to? Where you can honestly, fruitfully look at a human being as a soul, look at a stranger's face and look at him as literally your brother. We are in certain parts getting closer, in certain parts getting further, but it comes down exactly to, as you said, the knowledge. I have yet to see discussions of I don't know if you read like comments under these videos that go viral.
I try sometimes not to read, but I get kind of curious.
I like to read it. Maybe it's my argumentative side, because I do love arguing sometimes. But I try to read it just to see like the pulse of mankind, like just to get a rough value of how people are thinking. And I quickly see a trend. People are more interested to think, and people are more interested in discussing the details, the trees, rather than the forest.
Yeah.
Oh no, he spat on the cup. Oh no, the cup said stop. Oh, these are details. What's the end result? What's the forest telling us? The forest is telling us that the bar of human lives has been reduced. That's it. That's the end result. You can look at the details all you want and discuss on that and muddy the water. But the end result is the threshold for taking a human life is not as high as it should be. I believe in now this is me, but I believe in it's better to be killed than to kill mentality. Now many people will be like, wait, what if an intruder comes to your home with a shotgun? Okay, you stop him as much as you can. Paralyze him in self-defense. But again, you're not killing him. I believe in it's better to be killed than to kill. Now, this is my personal belief. As a Baha'i, this is what I believe in. Though the threshold of human life, when we see in these videos and when we see how people are discussing about the minutiae, the details. Oh no, he was running and they said stop. What did he expect?
Yeah.
And to be drawn into this conversation is not going to advance anything.
No, and I totally agree with you. 100%, and having that threshold of killing someone being so easily done these days, who gives these people power to do that? And if you look at most of those happenings, it's not so much about protection and
protect and serve is literally what's on the con, the vest.
It is.
Where's the serve part?
but if you have a burglar at home, it's better to let him take the TV than either being killed or kill or even end up in a violent confrontation. The TV is just a thing.
Now that sentence, you have obviously you do have an idea, but that sentence, I think like 40% of the population might be against you.
I know.
And that is what is shocking.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the fact that people would value, no, he's an intruder. He's here to steal my TV. I would take his life.
Yeah.
Shows how little we have valued human life. Even though it is an intruder. Even though he's there to try and kill you if you don't give him that TV. It's still alive. Let him get the TV.
Yeah. It's a damn TV.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, but that, it in the end of the day, it's not about the object. It's about rights. Because, as human beings, we are so obsessed by our rights and what we have, the First and Second Amendment in the US, our rights to defend ourselves. But, most situations you don't need to defend yourself. Just back off, But now we're going into burglar details.
Yeah,
I haven't experienced that so much.
No.
Yeah.
But you have seen. So the lack of knowledge people have, you have gotten it not only through your experience, not only through touring in Afghanistan, but also I would say the maturity that comes with age as well. I would say not many people have that though. But so you need to get somehow some knowledge to fill in that void.
Yeah.
But I feel that, like going back to even what we said about Henry Ford, I feel that opening a conversation about it, even if you do not know what the conversation is going to be about, is very important.
It is.
And that's how one moves forward. And again, speaking of Henry Ford, and cars, I know you have designed. First, it was like a snow. What do you call it? Like
the snow racer.
Snow racer.
Yeah, that is a project that I'm bringing back again now, actually.
So okay, I'm not sure how fast was this snow racer going, because I remember that.
Yeah, the story behind that is this was just a childhood dream.
Okay.
Growing up in the top of a hill, what we did in the wintertime was go sledding.
Right.
And there is something magical by going sledding, right? Because when you go sledding, you're not sledding, you're driving a Formula 1 car or a race car, and you're a hero, and this is going fast, and it's adrenaline, and it's fantasy, and all the good feelings that kids get by playing. And for me, having a father, which used to be automotive designer and growing up in racing and race pit stops and that kind of thing. For me, racing was just so amazing. It was so cool, so unnecessary, so meaningless in some ways, but still cool. It was just something intriguing about that, and it still is. So I kind of decided from my childhood, I was probably 7-8 years old, I don't remember, that I one day want to build the world's fastest snow racer based only on gravity, going downhill. And as I became a professional designer, I think 8 or 9 years ago, I kind of got my friend and colleague and one of my best friends actually, Anders Onnestad, which I'd done so many projects. But the cool thing about Anders was that I could tell Anders that, we are now professional designers. Let's create the world's fastest snow sled. And Anders wouldn't say, no, that's a stupid idea. Anders would be like, yeah, let's do that, because it will give us so much learnings and we will have fun and we will learn how to mold with carbon fiber and use different kind of materials and friction skis and technical issues, and we can do this, have a lot of fun, and then go out with a lot of learnings that we can kind of implement into other projects, more important projects. So we started this project and got Toyota on board, sponsoring us with aerodynamic testing and development in their headquarters and wind tunnel in Cologne, Germany. So we went there, tested and created, and based on analyses, Toyota said that, okay, based on the design you have now, we think you can go you have different kind of parameters doing this. It's wind and surface tension and snow and what kind of quality of snow you have and stuff, but somewhere between 290 and 310 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
That was, after significant testing in wind tunnel.
Solely on gravity.
That's
insane.
Yeah, and what you're doing then is, playing with science, because you are kind of changing terminal velocity,
exactly.
the speed something falls based on design and aerodynamics and stuff. And this is shape development, but shape in function, right? It's Lewis Sullivanism. So but we never got that far that we actually tested it full scale. But now I decided, Anders is now working in a different company, which I'm going to collaborate with, just because I want Anders to be part of the the next phase of the project also. But now I have a new colleague in the project, Magnus Sørli, which is just a genius in electromechanic design and stuff. So now we are kind of lifting the project back up again with a new team and trying to beat the record, hopefully next year.
Dude, that would be insane. That's something, honestly, that one would want to watch.
It will be the fastest gravity vehicle ever.
Of course.
Yeah. If you don't look at the Soyuz spacecraft falling back to Earth or so,
count.
But that doesn't count because that's outside of the atmosphere.
Exactly.
So they don't have air friction.
Exactly.
So this, and it just blew up in the media. I think we had around 300 media cases on articles on that, individual articles around the globe. The biggest newspapers just wrote about the project, and that was initial testing only.
That's insane, because honestly, if you just, as you said, all the knowledge you're going to get from such a project, with gravity, now if you put an engine in that thing.
Oh.
You put an engine in such a thing.
Yeah, it would be crazy.
It'd be insane.
Yeah.
So the transition, obviously, I mean, I'm sure you're designing cars more or less. Or have you been designing cars after that?
Yeah, I've been. Before that, I did that Lotus Super 7 racing car. And I also worked as a trainee on FYK, Statoil hydrogen supercar project, which I didn't design anything there, kind of nuts and bolts and stuff. But I made a lot of coffee that year and I learned a lot. And then I did the Lotus project. And many years after, it was, the Snow Speed project, which we are talking about now. And after that, I'd done a couple of vehicles, but different things. And the last thing is the Lamborghini project that we have been doing the last couple of years. Me and another guy called Anders Glosli. So I have two Anderses in my life, which is both very important and dear to me. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
So this Lamborghini project, it's still ongoing, or?
It's still ongoing. We are in the end phases of that. We have been iterating and designing for 2 years, just finding the perfect solutions. And that's kind of a different kind of goal, because the goal there is to go as fast as possible around Nürburgring, first and foremost, and beat the Nürburgring record. But you know,
where's is that a track somewhere?
it's a legendary track in Germany called Nürburgring is the official name.
Right.
In reality, it's called the Green Hell. It used to be a Formula One track, but it was banned because of the danger of it. The track is so long. I don't remember how long the track is, but I think the record is 6 minutes and 30 seconds or 40 seconds or something around that.
Right.
So it's a huge track. You have kind of different weather zones based on where on the track you are, so you can kind of hit sunlight and dry turf, and then suddenly go into a rainy part of the track. So it's and it's been a lot of deaths there, but having the Nürburgring record is kind of way up there in the car world. So but this project is something that we do for fun, talking about ethics and changing the world. Creating toys for billionaires is not something that's going to change the world to the better.
Right.
It's not.
But the knowledge that comes with that.
It's extreme. And now we actually learn, one of the things we learned is how to really work with intricate, complex carbon fiber structures, which is super important if you are going to make, highly advanced non-magnetic medical devices, for instance.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And how aluminium could be formed and shaped and milled into a structure which will hold forever. So you can kind of apply all the knowledge into super important questions and products and services. So,
no, absolutely.
It's a lot of learning.
You can translate it into and apply it into many fields.
Yeah.
That's why knowledge is never lost. It's like energy or heat.
It's just transforms into some different form. But most important, I think the most important knowledge we have in the field and sector of transportation is the aerodynamic knowledge that we have now. And we have been so lucky that we have been able to test a lot of theories. Say, for instance, if we apply a lot of the theories that we have in the next generation of fast-going trains, for instance, sustainable travel, we have the aerodynamic knowledge to do that now. And so even though it's not such an important product, but it's super fun and a lot of knowledge working with. And
no, you said something there with trains, because also, like, you've obviously seen the Hyperloop, right? This is something, it's not a train per se, but it still plays on the same effects of getting a passenger car from A to B, more or less on, a tracks or a loop. Yeah. So the design of the aerodynamics plays a massive role. But absolutely. I think the Hyperloop is in a vacuum.
Hyperloop is in a vacuum. That the secret of it is the vacuum. So, but that's also aerodynamics, right? Yeah. Because you don't need to have aerodynamic shapes in a vacuum, but the thought of making it friction free, how you solve. But this is so important towards all the other things that we are talking about. To make the world better, we have to stop calling things trains and cars. Why don't we call it, how do we transport humans?
Right.
That's what we should talk about. How do I transport myself in the future from A to B, instead of how will my car look like? Because then I'm just going to design a new car. And Hyperloop is kind of asking the right questions, creating something. They don't say, if they say, okay, how do we do the most efficient aerodynamics on this? Most companies would just start shaping aerodynamic forms and say that, okay, this shape is super aerodynamic and stuff. But Hyperloop has a bigger and more holistic picture of this, and they say that aerodynamics is all about removing friction, and you don't remove friction only by aerodynamic shapes, but maybe just
make a vacuum.
Yeah. Right? So problem solved, and they are. I think that's why. Elon Musk's companies are going so fast forward, creating technologies that big companies haven't been able to create in 100 years. I think that's the mindset they have. Yeah.
Did even think it was possible to relaunch the same rocket, and re-land it until he did it.
Yeah, and when you have the first Crew Dragon test, no failures, either in launch or return. It's just amazing. Everything just worked perfectly.
So what do you think he's doing right?
I think what he's doing right is I think it's more in the mindset. I think
Okay.
it's mostly in the mindset, and not only his mindset, but creating the culture where you have engineers and designers and great people working for you, which which has the same mindset that you have, because you've been able to create that kind of
Right.
culture. And not focusing and being blind by focusing on one detail which everybody else could have done, but taking a different take on this. For instance, by saying, they could bring out the main booster of Falcon Heavy back with parachute, doing it easy, and they're like, why should we do that? Why not make it land? Okay, why should we make it land? Because this and that, and they just take a new take on this.
Exactly.
And have a mindset that everything is possible, and they just have to solve it, and asking the right questions, and not being shaped by what people have done before, but kind of reinventing everything.
And that comes back to exactly what you said with the if you call it a car, you're bound by the definition of a car to innovate.
Big time.
But if you call it, well, how do we move people from A to B? Hey, you didn't say what type of transportation mode, so there's no limit to the innovation. You're not bound by, okay, are we designing a train or a bus? No, I just said, get these people here.
Yeah, and I had this discussion with we have our Nordic director, Christian Søgaard, at Design It, and he's also a great friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, and we had this phone call 2 days ago, actually, talking about the new Polestar car.
I saw that.
I think it's amazing.
It looked amazing.
But we had the discussion on the phone. Just, catching up in a pandemic, not seeing each other that much. We had this conversation where we were talking about, okay, and he asked me, what do you think about the car? And I said, the car is amazing. And the reason it's amazing is because I know that they have a plan. Their plan is to launch something. This is the entry model, right? But the vehicles they will launch for the future in the market will be totally different. And I'm kind of disappointed when I see the new electrical cars, because it's a totally new opportunity physically to kind of shape it totally different and reinventing the car, but they kind of still look like the cars we had in the 90s and 80s. And
so what do you think about the Cybertruck from a design from a design perspective?
Yeah,
this Elon Musk's Cybertruck.
Being a sci-fi nerd, I think it's fucking awesome.
Okay. Dude, I loved it, man.
I see myself camping in the back of it, just having a nap.
It's so like, people were bullying it because of how it is, and it's like, oh, a child could draw it. But yes, that is why it's good. That's the simplicity of it.
It's so bold launching something like that. I think it's amazing. But it won't come to Norway. So
it won't.
No, I think most European countries ban it because of the shapes and angles, and you have a lot of restriction on vehicles. So
that is sad.
It's for the American market.
Because isn't Norway like the highest or the number one consumer of Teslas?
Globally? It is, which is not a good thing.
How come?
No, I think it's. I have a lot of meanings around the sustainability issues connected to electrical cars, and globally, car manufacturers has this. Not Tesla. Tesla isn't a problem because they only make electrical vehicles. But if you look at Audi and kind of the other companies, if you look at Toyota, for instance, which I've been working with, Toyota is launching their first electrical car this year, but they are still the most sustainable car company the last 20 years. And the reason for that is there is a requirement that a certain percentage of the products you have in the market is electrical if you're a car manufacturer. So what Norway does by not having the taxes and stuff and people buying cheap electrical cars is kind of giving, for instance, Audi and some of the great companies, their percentage rate in the market goes straight to Norway, and then they can make shitty diesel cars and distribute to the rest of the world. So we actually we're kind of ruining this sustainable change by allowing so many electrical cars to be sold in Norway. Because
I see. Yeah, that's not something many people think about.
It's counterproductive, I think.
Right.
And that's why Toyota is more sustainable, because they have been not only talking about, but they had their, I think, first hybrid car 20 years ago in the market. So instead of just, entering the market with, say, 2% of their vehicles electric, they want to make 80% of their vehicles hybrid, for instance.
Right.
I don't know if these numbers are correct or not, but that's kind of the mindset they have and the strategy, which makes them more sustainable than anyone else.
Do you think we'll ever leave gas-driven cars?
I think we will leave gas-driven cars totally in just a few years.
Really?
And I think we're looking at maybe a decade or so of electrical cars, and I think we are going nuclear, to be honest.
Nuclear?
Yeah, I think
Many
so.
people don't really understand nuclear to accept nuclear as an option, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because many people are so scared of it. But
Right.
I think nuclear is the future. There are a lot of issues that we have to solve with that first. For instance, security and how to contain it in a safe manner, because you can't have every car being a potential nuclear bomb, a mega blast in the cities. But we will find that technology and we will solve it. And there are probably a lot of other energy sources that we don't know about yet. But I think the next step after electric is nuclear. I don't think electric is the future. I think that's the step between. Yeah.
No, nuclear, absolutely. For what it can give and the amount of energy and all, it's just we have to work around the kinks.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's a lot of fear around the word nuclear.
Big time. Yeah.
And that makes people not want to even push the research
Yeah.
on it. Even though just one nuclear plant could power, the whole Norway.
It's an amazing amount of power.
Right.
And just if you look at, smaller cars or towns, you don't need so big of a nuclear plant. You need an energy source, in the size of 1/4 of a tennis ball or something. Golf ball size could power a car the whole lifespan.
Exactly.
But then you have a lot of secondary suppliers like, battery manufacturers or gas suppliers or whatever, which will be pissed off. But that's, that's the way it is. If you don't innovate,
Right.
that happens. So what Equinor should be doing is focusing on nuclear and not, pumping
Not
the world
gas.
to the globe for resources.
But I feel there's a lot of political power that is keeping it gas. Have you seen the documentary? Now I just forgot the name. Like the first electric car, or the story of the first electric car. It's about, anyways, the story of, why the electric car died, or why the first electric car died. Something like that.
Because that was early on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the story was initially about how the first car was electric.
Yeah.
Gas was the second prototype of a car.
Yeah.
The first car that people thought about was actually electric driven,
Yeah.
but there was a split, because obviously you're going to make way more money with gas. So this was kind of pushed, reshelved, and held back. And even if you hear and see Elon Musk's story with Tesla, how many times he got pushed back from gas companies. And this is what I mean by, okay, these huge oil companies, will they give this up for a renewable energy source? Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, we still have certain Neanderthal thinking where, well, I'm living for 80 years, I'm going to grab as much cash as I can in my lifetime. And that includes, let's stick around with gas for 80 more years.
Yeah, I think at certain point we have to. But I think the pushback, the capitalist market is controlling a lot of this, and it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's not.
Exactly.
I'm sure that companies like Philips and manufacturers of light bulbs have forever lasting light bulbs. I'm sure they have that now. But if they launch it in the market, they make a shitload of money, the first year, and then they go bankrupt.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Kodak, right?
Yeah.
They're not bankrupt, but they're not as big as they were 15 years ago because of the digitalization of cameras. So you will have this disruptions in the market, but the companies, they don't want to cannibalize themselves, so they won't launch products. But then you have the secondary suppliers of things, for instance the gas companies. And the interesting thing is that they are in reality parasites to some products, right? That's what they are. There is a theory called new category needs. New category needs means that, say for instance, you buy a dishwasher for your home. For that, you need a secondary product, which is, the tablets,
soap,
the
right.
soap that you have, which is nothing to do with the product that you bought, nothing to do with the company,
Right.
but they are made by a totally different company to just make it work and run. And you kind of use that and everything is good. Sometimes when you're on a vacation or something, you get back and it smells kind of funky from your dishwasher, but you just put it on and the smells goes away. But after 5 years, you see this commercial on TV that now you have the third product for your dishwasher. And that is not the soap, but it's dishwasher rinse. Right? And then you go buy that and it becomes a part of your life. So you only have the secondary supplier, but you also have the third supplier of a product. And then you need filters, and then you need this and that, and suddenly you are connected to 5-6 different companies just having your dishwasher, and that's new category needs. And I think suppliers of category needs are kind of the most greedy companies. We need them in some ways,
right.
Sadly. But still, they are super greedy because their nature of existence is being parasites and
Right.
is being kind of this leech.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To a product or
Yeah.
to a... No, I see that.
But it's an interesting theory, right?
It's a very good theory. And
Yeah.
I like how... we were actually talking exactly about this. We were talking about how the Apple products are
Yeah.
exclusive. And that gets me back to maybe that's why they have made it that exclusive. So to keep away these parasitic companies from creating extra tools or extra things for them, because when you have an iPad, it only connects to other Apple products.
Yeah.
And this might be a way that they are trying to fight it, actually, by keeping it that closed in.
Probably yes. And it's a super smart, business strategy doing that. And I think, the people they have is probably the best in the world doing this. So there is a strategy behind it. And I think we can understand the surface of the strategy, what we
Right.
are talking about now, but I think that strategy is so much more complex, and it's super smart because people still buy it.
Of course.
And it's also a lot about identity, right? Products we develop, cars we drive, the way cars look, the colors they are, it's all about identity. We want to be part of a subculture, every one of us. We choose our clothes based
Yeah.
on what kind of fashion attracts us and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I get that. And that's true. That's what they call it, a brand. It's
Yeah.
a branding.
It's
you want
branding.
to belong into
It
it.
is.
That's amazing. So I would like to ask, what project would you want to work on that you haven't started? Because everyone has the Moby Dick, the white whale.
Yeah.
So what is your white whale?
My white whale, my Moby Dick is I want to do a process where I need to really challenge myself and the team I'm working with in every aspect. I want to solve something super complex. From my little boy's heart, I would say I would love to design a spacesuit, which I would love to do because it's complex and cool
Right.
and stuff. But my Moby Dick is designing something extremely important, med tech kind of thing that you don't think about. I think, to answer your question, there is a lot of fields I would love to go into. But if I would to design a product that changes lives, which nobody ever recognize or see or even think about that this has been designed by someone, I would be a lucky man. I think that's the closest I get to that question.
Then I'll end with this. There are probably people listening that obviously want to enter the design world.
Yeah.
Obviously look up to you, and they should, for what you've done and what you're putting up.
Thank you very much.
So what advice would you give them to break into the design world?
The advice I would give is really focus, but don't let the books tell you how to work and what kind of process, and think for yourself. Create your own processes. As a designer, you are not supposed to be super good at drawing, or the only thing you should be good in is planning great processes. No process is the same.
What is your process?
I don't have a process. That's the point of how I work. I don't have one process. We have this standard design process, doing insights and stuff. First, you have a problem, and then you do insights and ideation, and you have this process, and it's super important to understand that process. But my process is to be bold enough to be able to kind of change the kind of
nothing should be written in stone per se.
Exactly. And you always have to do insights because you design products for people, and insights are extremely important. But how to do them doesn't need to be interviews always or sitting down with someone. Sometimes you can start by prototyping and then iterating, and the insight just comes along. For instance, so my process is not having a process, but being able to think out a new and plan and design a process for every design project that I have.
And for all the young designers coming out of like Oslo, Christiania, coming out fresh with good or bad grades, how should they tackle the world?
They should tackle the world by challenging everything. Everything should be challenged, and start by challenging everything, and it will end up by identifying problems, which again will end up by making great design things. So the only way to tackle the world is being a challenger to the world.
Challenge everything, even if it is a electrical socket.
Yeah.
Amazing. Again, dude, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
And hopefully we'll want you back. There's so much other topics we have to touch. And time is just flying by. Really.
Thank you.
I would love to hear what happens in the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll get you back way sooner than that.
Looking forward to that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.